we're going to be making our jelly print now. This is my jelly plate. I've had it for a couple of years now. It is marked and stained with texture. Usually they're a bit clearer. It's a homemade one and you can see just how strong it is, and it's a wonderful piece of equipment to print on. So join with me now as we start to print. I have my brayer here that I'm going to be rolling out my paint on to the jelly plate with, and I also have a homemade Baron that I've just wrapped some coasters up in a water material, and that'll help me push my paper down onto the jelly plate to lift the paint. So I'm just using very cheap acrylic paints, and they're only like $2 a tube, and they're a great paint for jelly plate printing. I also have some bubble wrap that I'll be making marks on my paint with, and some netting that you can see it's well used, and that'll make some lovely marks as well as an old onion bag that I just fold together and dab onto my paint. All of this will leave lovely marks behind nice textures. I also have one of my stencils that I've just made out of A4 copy paper, and I'll do another video and show you how to make your own stencils. It's very cheap, very quick. Here's another one that I made as well, just with the little circles to give some lovely patterns. So I'm putting on some lovely aqua paint onto my jelly plate. As you can see, just rolling it out with the brayer. Now I'm just using the onion bag and the bubble wrap on top just to press down, and you can see how it's just leaving some impressions of marks onto the paint. Now there's a couple of ways of doing jelly plate prints, but this particular way is I'm going to do each layer of paint, letting them dry in between before I add the next layer. And then I'll be putting a covering of white paint over the top to lift it all off with my paper to print. Here I've laid on my other circle stencil, and I'm going to apply some paint and brayer that out onto the dry aqua paint that I now have there. Remember, I'm leaving each layer of paint to dry before I attempt to put on the next one. Here I spilled a little bit of paint, so I got my little skewer tool and wiped it over. You can just see that coming into frame. Running my brayer over the top of my stencil, which I will lift up, place back down again, add some more paint, and I've even found I can add it straight onto my brayer and just roll it down when I'm using stencils. So I'll be adding some more paint again onto my brayer and rolling that into my stencil. This is leaving beautiful little orange marks over the top of my aqua colour. I'm going to put on my stencil now, and this time I'm going to be adding purple paint over the top of my stencil. Same process as when I put the orange paint over the circle stencil. Lifting my stencil off, so again letting my paint dry before I then apply my white paint, which will be wet over the top of the entire jelly plate. And when I place my paper back onto that area, I will then be able to pull my print, and the paint and everything underneath the white will lift off onto my paper. So here, applying the paint, and again going to roll out with the brayer. And follow the same process, and then lift my print whilst the white paint is still wet. My white paint is a little dry, so I spray a little light spray of water over the top and quickly brayer it in with the white, and that will help it retain its moisture for me to pull the print. So placing my paper down on top, flattening it out, getting my baron and rubbing very firmly onto my paper in the hope of being able to adhere all the layers of paint to the paper. Now lifting the print, and yes, it has worked beautifully. So here we have our Gelli plate print ready to turn into our beautiful little mini journal in the next video. I look forward to you joining me then. Bye for now.